Thanks for tuning in to the Nindie Nation podcast, your weekly dose of all things independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. I'm Jeff, and I'm joined by the man currently freezing out his family in the middle of a cold Ohio winter, Josh.
Ooh, Jeff, what have you made me do?
For reference, I made Josh turn off his heater because it was coming through in the recording.
Oh,
so,
my goodness. No, I'm
look
out,
not ladies. He might be single next week.
I'm already in I'm already in an ice box in the basement, so we'll make it work. One way or another.
Well, for those who aren't aware, on this weekly Indie Games show, we like to walk through all the games that we've been playing, what we think is worth your time, and what you should be playing. And then in the second half of the show, as always, we will walk through the games that are coming out on the eShop next week, as well as the games currently on sale for the Switch. But to get started, let's talk about the things that have been keeping our Joy-Cons synced this week. Josh, what have you been playing?
All right, well, I mentioned last week how there was a game that reminded me of Darkest Dungeon. Mm-hmm. And that game is called The Shrouded Isle. And it's from, developer Eric LaHaye, FX Billadu, John Woo Kim, and Tanya Short. They don't really have a development studio. The publisher's Kit Fox Games. But this is, like I said, it's very different from Darkest Dungeon. It's not your signature go into a dungeon and you fight random enemies, tactical and turn-based. This is more like a strategy title where you start off, you're a high priest and you're devoted to a god known as Chernobog. And every 5 years, you have to sacrifice someone from a town or district that's in your whole island. And there's 5 districts. Mm-hmm. And as you play, the god can only be appeased by certain people. So as the years go by, which is based off of turns, you have like 5 turns before you have to make a sacrifice. You have to figure out which one would appease the god the most, and that's by asking them questions or seeing, some might be not as obedient, and you have these little bars that measure like obedience, your discipline. There's just a bunch of different statistics, and you have to keep those all within range, because if they're not, then the god won't be happy with you and he'll smite everyone there.
What happens when he smites them?
It's just game over.
Oh. Yeah,
it's not.
I was hoping he sent down a tornado or something.
Yeah, or hellfire upon us all. Right. But I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, it's
one of those.
It's not really fun, but it's interesting, and it's like a different concept, and that's what I like the most about it.
Yeah,
like trying to play poker, there's a layer of like chance to it. So what cards you're dealt, that's what you can play off of. And
I remember you were drawn to it because that art style. Do you dig the art style? Does it look as good in motion as it seems?
There's really not much motion. It's more still pictures.
Oh, okay.
But it has that same, the same art style that like the characters, they look like they were drawn in that same way, but there's not really much movement to it. They have some stylized like cutscenes that look pretty cool, where it's like still, but they're like still moving, which is sort of neat. And then when you make sacrifices, it goes to like this grandiose moment, and then blood comes out, the screen washes red, and they make it pretty heavy. Like, you need to watch who you're actually sacrificing and
fun for the whole family.
Yeah. So Eli is going to be like, what in the world is he talking about? My sons listen to this all the time. But
hi, Eli. We should do a list of our favorite meh games, or the games where we're like, I don't really know how I feel about it.
It's one of those, I like it, but I just don't know how I feel about it,
Sure, right. Are you going to keep playing it, or do you think it's going to kind of go on the shelf?
It's going to be one of those one and done type of deals. I have my fill, and there's lots of randomization, so you can always come back and get something different.
That's good. That's cool.
So I could come back later and have a completely different experience, which is nice. So it's one of those you can come back to, but I can't imagine playing this for like days on end, It's not.
I think that one was kind of expensive, wasn't it?
It was like $15.
Yeah, that's kind of expensive for not much animation and not much gameplay and stuff.
Yeah, it's sort of like a D&D session. There's just a lot of meta underground stuff working there as far as the strategy.
That's a really good comparison. Maybe that's why, is that it's really geared towards the type of like tabletop RPG players.
Yeah, and it's not just like all random based. There's a level of strategy involved. So you should probably like watch a YouTube video just to see what it's about, because I mean it's not going to be for everyone.
What's it called? The
Shivering Isle.
It's called the Slithering
It's
Isles?
not. I was watching Harry Potter.
What is this game called?
Oh my gosh. The Shrouded Isle. Should we restart that?
No. That's what the people are here for. They're here for the level of professionalism that only comes from a really hard, awkward edit. Yeah, everybody will be fine. Nobody will notice. So what else have you been playing?
All right, I've been playing. Okay, I can't mess this one up. Planet Rick's 13. This is a very simple game. It's basically just an adventure title where you're this astronaut and something bad happens on your ship and you get caught on the planet, and there's vast amounts of radiation everywhere, so you have to watch where you're going and figure out a way off the planet. It reminds me of a really early PC game where you use like floppy disks to play. It only took me like an hour to beat.
Oh, okay.
Roughly. It's $4.99 on the eShop, so the price is appropriate for it.
I really think they did a good job of nailing that old school art style they were going for, like really big pixels. Like it makes it look like it was on a really old computer monitor that's like, 80 by 80 resolution or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the prettiest looking game, but it has that cool retro aesthetic to it.
Yeah, but good for a quick fix and a little fun romp with it.
Yeah, if you're into adventure games, it's definitely worth that, because it can be completed so fast, and it has a pretty good story to it as well, like with audio dialogues and stuff. Like there's a world built around it.
Oh, that's
cool. I
cool.
thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Finally, next week I have Jack Quest, Cursed Castilla, and Suicide Guy on the docket,
and we're going to talk about couple of those later.
Yeah, I just want to mention that those are the next game I'm going to be playing, but as far as game that we both been playing is Old School Racer 2. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say, but for me, it reminds me a lot of Joe Danger, but without the 2.5D graphics, and it's missing some of that just off the wall randomness that Joe Danger supplied. I feel like it's more technical in a sense, I guess.
Well, I will say that I think the name itself is a little misleading. Old School Racer 2 doesn't sound to me like one of those 2D, like you said, Joe Danger or Trials, or one of those like physics-based motorcycle games.
It's more puzzle-based.
Yeah, but that's what it is. And I think the thing that it brings that's a little more unique is, I think it does have some of those random elements, but instead of like obstacles and things that it has happening, it has gravity mechanics that change. And so like parts of the ground will move and raise, and some of that makes you have to approach it by like a trial and error approach, which is fine because restarting is actually really, really fast. And I think that's one of the most important things in that kind of game.
Sure.
I think it's well done. I think the controls feel good, trying to figure out how to rock back and forward on the motorcycle so that you land as even as possible and stuff like that. I'm not really into that genre of game.
Yeah.
My thought is that if you are into those style of games and, you're kind of waiting for something for, what's the new one? Trials Fusion, I think that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
If you're really into those, or Joe Danger's probably a better comparison. If you're into those kind of games, I do think it does what it's set out to do. It's just not necessarily my bag.
Yeah, and it's just not. like with the fun aesthetic that Joe Danger has, it's missing some of that soul, you know?
Yeah.
Just sort of
a little bit.
generic. You can unlock different racers and bikes and stuff and different vehicles, which is sort of cool. But I just didn't feel like I was in control as much as like in Joe Danger, which I felt more fluid with.
Yeah, the game's on sale this week. It's fairly new. It is indie developed. So I think it's good in that aspect, you know, for the price. It was a few bucks. I think it's like $4.50 or something.
Yeah, it's another one that's pretty cheap. So
yeah, I don't think there's any necessary problems with the game. I just think that it's, you know, it's good. It's
it
good.
is
I think
what
it
it
does.
is. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So on my end, I've been playing a ton, which is good because I'm going to be the worst Nindie podcaster ever when Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out at the end of the month.
Oh my.
I am nuts
You'll be
about
gone.
those games. I'm nuts. I'm bad. So it's going to be a problem. I finished Guacamelee 2.
Yeah.
And I got the good ending. There's a couple of collectibles that you have to get throughout the game, like little secret chicken eggs. And man, that game's just awesome. I've spoken about it like 2 or 3 times on the podcast. It's phenomenal. One of my favorite games on the Switch. I loved it. So go buy it, go play it. What else can I say about it? And then I picked up on a whim last week during the podcast. I bought Revenge of the Bird King.
Yay.
There's a Let's Play on the YouTube channel of the first time I launched the game. So you get to see the first 30 minutes as I'm playing it. And Revenge of the Bird King is a 2D action platformer that surprised me with a lot of elements of Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, which ironically enough came out on the Switch NES Online thing yesterday. So what I mean by that is when you leave levels, you go into an overworld map where you can see the little blob enemies roaming around that get you into like a single screen enemy encounter kind of thing. Other than that, it has kind of a mold of a Mega Man or like Shovel Knight or something where there's 8 different enemies. They all have their own level. You go beat them. You get one of their weapons, that kind of stuff. There's leveling mechanics in it. So there's a lot to do there. It really leans into a currency system from all the enemies that drop stuff. It's done really well. I really, really enjoyed my time with it. And the only problem is that I would say after I got about 2 or 3 hours in, and I want to say I'm probably in maybe the last third of the game, like I'm getting pretty close. If it were a Mega Man game, I'm like 1 or 2 robot masters away from Wily's castle, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of falling apart. Like, it's really losing its focus. I can't really tell where to go now. I stopped playing it because I would roam around the open world, go into a level and be like, did I beat this level yet? And it would introduce some Metroidvania stuff where I was like, I don't really know how to progress to the next level. It feels a little bit like rushed or lazy or just poor design, more so than a mechanic trying to teach me how to get through the game. So, you know, I loved the time that I spent with it so far, but it did kind of fall apart. So I'll go back and finish it at some point if I can. Like, it really is a point now where I can't figure out where I should be spending my time next. So we'll see.
Is it sort of what would you compare it to the most? More like Mega Man, or with combat's more Shovel Knight, or what?
It's more like Mega Man. When you're running around, what I like about it is you plant the weapons that you want to use. So like you've got like your machine gun, a shotgun, a spread gun. You've got one of the guns is something that lets you do double jumps, for example.
Yeah.
But the only way to use them is you have to go to a shop in between levels or in the overworld and spend your currency on buying them. And so, and they price it right. It's cheap. Like, I never really feel like I'm needing more of certain things, except for maybe like the double jump item. So you collect 2,000 coins in the first level. You go into the open or the overworld. You go to the store, and each gun that has 20 shots of the spread weapon is like 10 coins each. So I go, you'll see me on the Let's Play go into the shop, and I'm just like buy, you know, for all the guns. It seems a little unnecessary that's the way they kind of monetize that, but it's not really a detractor. But for the most part, yeah, you're running and jumping and shooting and climbing stuff and dodging projectiles and things like that. But it really does have a lot of sensibilities of Zelda 2, kind of the flow of the game. So,
Yeah.
Shovel Knight's that Mega Man meets DuckTales. This is kind of like a Mega Man meets Zelda 2, which is cool, and it's unique, and it's really funny. There's a lot of really dorky, clever narrative in it that I thought was well done. So I recommend it with that caveat that maybe it's a me thing, but I'm kind of stuck, and I don't know that it's a player's fault.
Yeah. It looks cool, though, so check it out on YouTube if you're interested for more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in addition, I'll just say real quick, I'm playing more Messenger. I'm getting really close to the end. It opened up an awesome new part of the game that I never saw coming. And this game
wow,
just
another part? Man.
Yes, and it's just like a really, really cool thing that happened that was really exciting.
Wow.
I loved that because of the structure of the Messenger, I was able to jump right back in and start making progress immediately.
Yeah, that's great. It's so balanced.
It really is. Eventually, I'll finish it, and then right when I do, I'm sure Picnic Panic, the new DLC, will come out for it. So.
Yeah, that looks awesome. I love that.
And then I'll be talking about it for another 6 months. Finally, I bought, played, and completed twice Geodrifter.
Yeah, music by the Brian Altano.
Yeah, so have you played it before?
I have. I played it on Vita. It is it's a simple Metroidvania-like game, but it's so great in its simplicity.
Yes. It is. It's very, very simple. It is mini Metroid, and I think it's great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's great.
I played it on the Switch. I bought it on the Switch for $2. It's still on sale for another week. Mm-hmm. And then I got almost to the end, and I was like, I've only played this game for like an hour and a half, and I'm almost done with it. This really feels like a game that was on the Vita at some point. Was this on the Vita?
Sure enough.
And sure enough, it was free on PlayStation Plus in September of 2015. So I pulled out the Vita, played the whole game there, and then I went back to the Switch and beat it.
Wow.
But yeah, it's like classic Metroid. It's cool, pretty neat music, great atmosphere, interesting, unique mechanics that have you going back and forth between two different planes in the level, which is also something a TUI does with Mutant Muds.
Yeah.
And just a great game. And I will say the one thing that you didn't experience if you didn't play it on the Switch, if you're a trophy hunter, get it on the Vita. But if you're not, they do some of the coolest things I've seen an indie developer do with the HD Rumble on the Switch.
Really?
Yeah, like they use it in parts of the sound design. Like it'll get really quiet, and they'll use it to make like water droplet noises.
Oh, that's cool.
And all of the guns you use and powers you use have really unique sensations with the HD Rumble. It does some really, really, really cool stuff with it. I love it when the indie devs utilize that HD Rumble to a really cool way.
Any game in particular, because like you said, it adds to the experience. It's more immersive. And the technology's so amazing that it actually feels like you said, like walking through a puddle or I don't know how they do that. It's amazing.
I would love to see if Nintendo has like cool software that makes that kind of stuff easy, or if that's really difficult. But and there are a couple of small quality of life things like inventory management stuff. The Vita has this weird mode where you have to like select from one of 3 different screen sizes, and none of them are really ideal. Like one has a border and stuff like that, whereas the Switch, it's just one native resolution that's full screen and everything's a little sharper. So it is better on the Switch, and guys, it's $2. Like, play it, it's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
Other than that, I did buy Gunman Clive, that collection, and I just started it, so I've played about 5 minutes of it, and so far I think it's really neat. So look for that information next week. I heard that both games are about an hour or so long, so I'm sure I'll beat them. And I bought the Mutant Muds collection because
might as well.
It's $3. You get 3 games, and Atui's a great developer. Geodrifter was great. I've played a little bit of Mutant Muds in the past, so
it's a big game, especially the collection. There's a lot of content there.
Yeah, it is. So lots of Nindies in the old household this week, and lots of good stuff coming up next week. So looking forward to it. I will also we have been in touch with, I'm gonna butcher this, Dragaeus games. Dragaeus, is that what
Dragoose games? No. Dragaeus.
Dragaeus, you think?
Yeah.
They've made a couple of games on the Switch. Most recently, Mech Rage, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter that looks like Smash TV. They're going to give us a couple of codes so we can try it out, and they're also going to give us a code that we can give away on the podcast. I don't want to start an official contest until we have codes in hand, but once we do, probably over the weekend, we will put some stuff out on Twitter and see if we can get some good answers for some kind of silly question and read them next week.
You gotta make fun of it, you know.
You gotta have fun.
Gotta have some fun. Not just a simple retweet like crap, you know.
No.
We don't play that game here.
No, we like to do things as professionally as possible.
The shivering aisle, jeez.
I'm really wondering right now what that edit is going to sound like.
I know that you're going to have fun with that. That's awesome.
At least it wasn't the first thing we talked about.
Well, Jeff, you want to get to the new releases?
Yes, I would love to know what's coming out on the eShop.
Great. We're talking about January 17th through the 24th. And this week, out now, we have Get Amped Mobile from Cyberstep. And this is a free-to-play mobile game. All the trappings of microtransactions and all that good stuff. About cosplay battles. So there you have it. Then this one's pretty cool. Dragon's Lair Trilogy by Digital Leisure is $19.99, and these are the 3 Dom Bluth classics: Dragon's Lair, Dragon's Lair 2, and Space Ace. So that's pretty cool, actually.
You ever play those back in the day?
No, I've never played them. I remember wanting to play them back in the day, and then you had to have like a Sega CD or something.
Did you spend much time in arcades as a kid?
I never saw them there. Like, I never have experienced the game, but it looks so cool.
Oh,
and at that time, it was like the Heavy Rain or something like that of its time.
Yeah, you and the kids should play through Dragon's Lair. I mean, it's really just, it's a gigantic
it's just choose,
event.
Pretty much.
It's just a gigantic quick time event, but you guys should play it. I think it has, don't quote me on this, but I think it has some fail safes in there, so you're not always having to like start over from the beginning again and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you had to do that back in the day. It was all the way at the beginning.
Yeah.
I remember they released a NES version too that was really crappy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Infamously crappy.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you should totally play that with the kids. They're funny and family friendly, and you get all 3 of them for $20. Yeah, I would recommend them. They're a fun little throwback.
I'll definitely look into that. And then we have Rampage Nights by Rake in a Grass. And it's 20% off for this week at $9.59. And it looks like a fun co-op beat 'em up with randomized dungeon crawling. And we love our co-op experiences, so check that out. Next, on January 18th, we have Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes by Grasshopper Interactive, developed by the infamous Suda51.
Suda!
We all know him from Killer 7, No More Heroes. But yes, this is Travis Touchdown's own game. And it's getting decent reviews so far.
Yeah, it's kind of hitting with a thud.
They say that the gameplay is very simple. It doesn't have that same gravitas that the original No More Heroes had.
I remember when I got Killer 7 and I played it for like an hour and I was like, I don't know what this is.
All I remember was there's like this guy's head was in a like a dryer and he was trying to talk to you.
Yeah. And I remember like all these weird interface things where like the screen would shatter and you were pointing the Wii remote at the screen but you didn't know what it was doing, and
on rail shooter sections randomly, and
it was
weird
so weird stuff. So I mean, maybe simplistic is good. I mean, it looked neat. I watched a couple of video reviews today.
Yeah. I mean, if it goes down in price, it's $30 right now. So
yeah, it's a little bit
too much for me. But Next, we have Old School Racer 2, which we just talked about from Riddler Soft Games. And like we said, it's worth checking out if that's your thing. This next one I like, Fight of Gods by Digital Crafter. And
have you pulled this thing up?
This looks amazing just because it's every deity that you can think of fighting. It includes Jesus Christ. We got Buddha. We got Odin.
We got Santa Claus.
We got Amaterasu. We have, oh my gosh. We have Zeus.
And it looks, it's got an art style like really bad late 90s Mortal Kombat ripoffs. I feel like I've seen this in a lot of YouTube.
It was
channels.
an early access game on PC, and now it's finally just coming out on Switch and PC as a full version.
You should definitely see if you can get a code. We get a code. We could do a let's play of that. I think you might have to have adult beverages to play a game like that.
That's pretty brutal, but okay. Mars or Die by 34 Big Things. It comes out on the 18th, and it's a mix between a roguelike and tower defense set on Mars. Cinderella, an interactive fairy tale by Golden Orb. This looks like a cute, well-made game for kids who aren't into traditional modern video games.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got like a 3 or 4 year old that
like your daughter would probably be into it.
Yeah,
so.
Well, my daughter's I think past this, but it looks like the kind of stuff that she used to play on her Leapfrog, where it's like a simple puzzle and then like a spelling game and stuff like that. But it's it doesn't. I looked at it and I wanted to start making fun of it, but then the more I looked, I was like, actually, it's like won a couple of awards, and I think it was like $6. And so, if you've got if you've got a young daughter that likes to see mom or dad play the Switch, it might not be a bad idea if you want some time with your kid to have them sit on your lap and play with the Switch. It might actually do the job.
Sure. Then on January 21st. We have I Hug You, which is IHUGU, by Cool to Play, who made the brilliant Clock Simulator.
Hey, we didn't talk about that, and I saw... wait, is it out yet? Are you under NDA?
No, it's out, yeah. I thought I mentioned that, but I guess I did.
You didn't, and I remember seeing that you're online playing it. So what was Clock Simulator?
There's not much to it at all. The name says it all. You basically, like a metronome, you're just tapping one button to the clock beat. And it rates you on if you're too slow or fast. And there's a bunch of mini games.
What?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Is it just like for trophies on the Vita and stuff? Like, is that why it's there?
Yeah, you can get really... That's one thing they said, you could get real easy trophies on it. But they have a few mini games, like a co-op experience where everyone has to, like... match with the buttons so these little pigs can jump over a clock hand. What? And then there's one where you're running away on the clock and you have to push buttons as it ticks to make the correct face button, or else it'll hit them. Or it's like Minecraft like pigs. It's weird too, but yeah, it's very weird. But this one sounds weird too because it's a game about hugging people, but only once.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Then we have on January 22nd at sundown, Shots in the Dark by Versus Evil. But this is a stealth-driven, top-down 4-player shooter. And there's arena combat. And it looks like it's mainly based on the multiplayer component. And
online stuff. That's a little scary.
Yeah, there's... The Nintendo Online has been largely a disaster at this point.
Yeah, it has. Have you tried to play Smash
Online?
I
can't do it. Just can't do it.
I have a Ethernet adapter, like a really old one that I used to use from work that just plugs into the USB port. Yeah. And I've plugged it in a couple of times.
Has it been any better? It still probably slows down, though.
It's not as terrible. Like, I'm not getting disconnected, but it's still like 20 frames per second. Yeah. Like, it feels like a different game.
Wow, that's crazy. Still.
I mean, at least we're not having to pay for it now, because then you'd really...
wait.
Wait, we do have to pay for it now.
Maybe they should charge it more so that they can put more effort into it.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, I get a little nervous for these guys. Like, okay, you're releasing this game. It's like an arena shooter. a top-down arena shooter. It's like based on stealth. Like none of this sounds like something I would be interested in personally. But if you're releasing a multiplayer game that's like predominantly online and you're an indie developer, probably a lot of things at stake here.
Yeah.
And if somebody gets on and it's not easy to find a game and the online experience isn't good, like this thing's probably going to crash.
That reminds me of when SOCOM came out during the PS3 PSN online outage.
Yeah.
That's like all online game, and it just crippled that game.
Ended up getting that studio shuttered.
Yep, exactly. So, come on, Nintendo, get with the program. We have the Raven Remaster by Nordic Games, and this is set in 1964 London, and it's based off an older title, I believe, but pretty much your classic crime scene adventure game where you look up clues and try to solve murder mysteries. So, Future Grind from Milk Bag Games. That's clever. But this looks like Ollie Ollie, and what's cool about it is that it's like you're on a motorcycle, but it has two spheres that are different colors, and you have to jump along these like electric lines that match the colors, and if you don't, you fail.
It reminds me of the grind rail parts of Ratchet and Clank games.
It's 2D.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, which I guess that's sort of 2D as well. 2.5D.
Yeah, it's on rails. Well, literally on rails.
But yeah, it looks sort of cool, so that's one we'll keep our eye on.
For sure. That one, it does look neat.
January 24th, we have Doodle God Evolution by Joybits. And it looks like this is some type of god game. If you look at the page, it's just pictures of staring at a book.
There's no video, and the description is not helpful of the game. And every screenshot they published, it is just images of like some kind of book with an inventory in it. Like there's no gameplay. So I tried, but I have no idea what Doodle God Evolution is.
I'll have to watch a video. Yeah. This next game sounds pretty cool. Legrand Legacy, Tale of the Fatebounds by another indie studio. And this is the one that made Sinner, Sacrifice, and Redemption, which I played and enjoyed. But this isn't like a Dark Souls game. This is your basic PS1 era JRPG that looks a little more modernized with style of turn-based Final Fantasy games, FMVs, etc. Yeah, and it looks really cool, actually. So, Piku Niku. And this is one of the games that was introduced during the Kinda Funny showcase by Devolver. And it has a really cool aesthetic, papercraft.
Really bright,
colorful. And it looks like
simple,
a puzzle exploration game. Yeah, so that looks pretty cool. We have Cursed Castilla, which I haven't played yet, but it's coming out on the 24th by Abbey Light. It looks like your callback to Ghost and Goblins, very old school action adventure title.
I mean, it looks exactly like Ghost and Goblins.
That's
like the arcade version, not the console one. It looks really good.
Did I hit on Battle Princess Madeline by chance? I guess I haven't.
I don't know if we ever talked about that game because I've been interested in it.
Down to the core of what Ghost and Goblins is. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. Man, I have been playing a lot of games, more than I think.
I want a game in that style that has what we always make fun of, that has like the RPG and roguelike and that kind of stuff. Does Battle Princess Madeline have any of that kind of stuff where like
there is a lot of backtracking and there's a lot of verticality to the levels and secrets, so in a sense, it's not as straightforward as Ghost and Goblins, if that's what you're asking.
Right.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I want that kind of gameplay with, the notion that, like, I can get better and stronger as I'm playing through it.
There's not much growth in that regard, but it's not near as hard as Ghost and Goblins, which is notoriously difficult. Next, we have Kill All Zombies by Beat Shapers. And it looks like a top-down version of Dead Rising, or if you think about Dead Nation from Housemarque, score single-run horde mode with experience accumulation, And it could be fun, just a good shooting time, you know?
Yeah, if it's like Dead Nation is your level-based narrative, this is just the Horde mode equivalent. So almost like kind of like Left 4 Dead, but top-down in that way. Man, we need another Left 4 Dead game. Those are awesome.
Those are so good. Come on. And then we have Action Cthulhu Tactics from Ripstone Publishing. And I played this on the Xbox One, so I know a little bit about it. And
you have an Xbox One?
Yeah, I have Xbox One S.
Oh, I don't think I
have
knew
it
you had
because I
one.
wanted the 4K Blu-ray player.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's primarily the reason. But this is an XCOM-like game, tactical game. It's basically just like that. As you go through, there's enemies that, as you just explore different regions, they come into contact, then the battle opens up. It's very similar, and it's set in an alternate World War II setting. It's where, as the Nazis, they are finding different ways to harbor, like a Wolfenstein setting where they're using the occult, to make these monstrosities. But this is just a tactical game, and it has all those like before you start a mission, you have your party and you choose who you bring in. It was pretty good. It's pretty bare bones in that sense, but if you want a tactical game, it's definitely worth picking up.
I'm gonna say if you want a tactical game, you should get Into the Breach.
Yeah.
Have you played that yet?
No, I haven't, but
you gotta get
I'm gonna
get
get too hooked if I get into it. Then we have Jack Quest from Level 77, and this is a retro platformer that looks like The Adventures of Pip or something similar to that. Basic platforming hack and slash action. And then finally we have My Memory of Us from Crunching Koalas. That they win developer name of the week.
We've talked about them before. What else have they made?
I
recognize that name and see they did Butcher and Timber Tennis Versus.
Oh, okay.
And that Regalia of Men and Monarchs. They've made a few things.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a little neat macabre, cute puzzle title. It has that aesthetic that's really dark and like Inside or Limbo, very similar to that, but it's more puzzle based than platforming. So that looks cool. And those are your new releases for January 17th through 24th.
I don't think we actually got an RPG RPG mechanics with roguelike elements this week.
There wasn't many, yeah. It's a different type of week.
It's a little slow on the eShop right now. I wonder, what's everybody trying to get out of the way of? Or is it just all the indie devs were trying to get their games out?
It's the end of the year,
season?
They're just like, man, we're beat.
Seriously, you guys take a break.
Yeah, everybody needs a break.
Well, there's a few good games on sale right now. Let's run through a few of those.
Starting off with the Atui collection, which is 80% off. All games are either $1.99 or $2.99, as you previously mentioned. Zeo Drifter you should definitely get for $2. Soccer Slammers, Totes the Goat, Mutant Muds is definitely worth $2.99.
Yeah.
So
there's a ton of
you
content
might as well
there
just
for
buy all
$3.
those. Support good indie developers. Outlast 1 and 2 are 50% off for $12.49 and $14.99. And I really want to play this game, but I just can't bring myself to do it. It just looks so frightening.
It's too scary.
I know.
Yeah.
Especially, I have it for PS4. I don't have these for the Switch, but I'm sure it's just as scary. Mana Spark is $6.66. The year of our Satan. Wow, at 33%.
So if you want to see some of that game, we played a little bit of it in our year in review stream. And man, I keep looking at this game. I'm interested in it. It was pretty tough.
It's really tough.
I didn't love how tiny the character was on the screen.
Yeah.
It made it a little harder to aim, but it's like, okay, will I get used to that and end up loving it? Because it seems like there's a good game under there.
There is.
I just didn't play a ton of it.
Just think of it like the Titan Souls game where you take on... It's sort of like that small little character where you're dodging and have a bow and stuff.
Gotcha.
If you're into the roguelike genre, it's definitely worth checking out. Double Cross, the new game from 13 AM Games, is 25% off for $14.99, and this looks really cool.
It does. It's not getting the greatest reviews. It's kind of fallen in like that 70 area.
Yeah, which that's still fine.
That's still good. I do want to play this. I think it's interesting how quick, because it wasn't 25% when it launched last week. So I'm wondering if they didn't see the uptick they were hoping for.
Yeah, that's pretty
I'm very interested
fast.
in this game, though.
The Tower of Babel from Enjoy Up Games, a 2.5D runner similar to Runner 3 is $251 at 58% off.
I'm kind of interested in this game. You know, just like the auto runner, you jump, but it's like you're constantly running around the outside of a circular castle. So it's like always kind of spinning.
Really cool. And it
sort of seems neat.
Procedurally generates, it looks like. Then we have Ninja Clash of Carrots by Modus Games. It has a demo which you can check out, and that's 50% off for $7.49.
You played this, didn't you?
Yeah, this is a really cool game where you're constantly running, but it's like a beat 'em up. Like you're sort of ice skating because you're always running, but it plays really well. There's a lot of different combos and items, and you always feel like you're progressing, which is really cool.
Huh.
Yeah. And then Hyper Sentinel from Huey Games, and it also has a demo, and it's 80% off for $259. And I picked this up when it was on sale for $259 before, and I never got the chance to play it. You know, it's one of those games. Yeah, one of those games you just buy because it's really cheap. And then
I'm more. That might be Mutant Muds for me, because I've played like a third of the game or whatever in the past, but it was so cheap, and I love a TUI. Like, I just bought it, and hopefully it gets played.
Yeah, there's just so many games that, like, indie games I have on the PS4 or somewhere else, but I want to play them on Switch, so I'll just buy them again. For no sense, but oh well.
I think we're gonna see some more new releases, and things are getting a little more spread out as the year picks up. So hopefully we see some more content soon, because things have been a little slow at the beginning of the year for the Switch. Speaking of which, Y2K came out today. Have you been reading any of the postmodern RPG game?
Yeah, it looks cool.
Have you been reading anything about it?
I have. It's not getting the type of praise that I thought it would get, but I mean,
Agreed.
I think that I definitely still want to check it out. Like, that doesn't hinder my excitement for it, because it has that sort of Saturday morning RPG vibe, which I really liked a lot.
I get the feeling, just like Saturday morning RPG, it's the kind of game that says it's an RPG, but it's really kind of an RPG meant for people who don't really get into RPGs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's kind of like Earthbound as well. Like, I don't vibe with those games that aren't the, I don't know, harder core RPGs. So I've kind of lost interest in the game. But like, if you were to play it and say you love it, I'd probably give it a shot.
Yeah.
But so we've got some good other games coming up here pretty soon. In fact, if you look down the upcoming releases, there's some good stuff coming out in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be certain to keep you posted on anything that we play. But in the meantime, we would love to hear the kind of games that you're playing. So jump on the YouTube channel, take a look at some of the new Let's Plays, have some other couple ones going up soon from some of the devs that are offering to give us some codes and things like that. Take a look at us on Facebook at Nindie Nation, or on Twitter at Nindie Nation, so that you can stay posted on some of these upcoming contests or giveaways going out. We're not going to make you work too hard for the code, I promise. I'm at Nindie Jeff on Twitter. Josh is at -the_Brant, BRANT.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Hey, I do what I can. And we are hosted through the Nintendo Village. What is that, Josh?
It is a great Nintendo site full of awesome content, articles, and other shows that share our brand. So go ahead and throw some love over there and check out some of the shows and support your fellow creators, content creators, if you will.
And in the meantime, I just happen to be podcasting right next to where my 1-year-old son left some of his music toys. Ooh, and that is not in tune.
The xylophone is not in tune. You failed as a father.
The shaker is in tune.
Oh, there you go. That's your metronome effect.
Yeah, that's the last thing I need is more metronomes. I can keep going if you want. There's like 4 or 5 things here. I got a tambourine here.
Oh,
as
okay,
well.
man.
Maybe next time I can like start using these. Like, hey, it's got RPG mechanics and roguelike elements. Like, hey,
hasta la vista. And I love the electronic drum set. You guys can't see it, but yeah, it's a full musical room there.
Yeah, there's a lot of music junk down here. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week on Nindie Nation. Until next time, I'm Jeff. That's Josh. And we look forward to chatting with you about the great Nindie goodness on the Switch next week. Keep those Joy-Cons synced.